Daredevil Born Again releases in March, which is just a little over a month now, which means today I am going to start my Road to Born Again review series of every Marvel Netflix TV season. Before I get started with this video, I just want to say that I'm not going to have the series done before it comes out because I've literally just finished Daredevil Season 2 last night, which means I got, 10 more seasons to watch before this comes out. So I'm planning on watching Daredevil Season 3 before Born Again, and then maybe a couple, not maybe, but definitely a couple other seasons, the more important ones. So this week we're going to have the Season 1 review, Season 2 review, and the Jessica Jones Season 1 review, because that is what I have watched so far. Before I get started with my review, I want to know what is your opinions on this season down below in the comment section, Daredevil Season 1, and are you guys excited for the rest of this review series? And with that said, we're going to start this review with Daredevil Season 1. There will be spoilers here, just so everyone is aware that this is a spoiler review. It did come out several years ago, so I don't think that's really that big of an issue. If you haven't seen it, go watch it, and then come back and watch this review. I think Daredevil Season 1 is a part of three halves. The beginning, which I think is really good. The middle, which I think is just a tiny little bit overrated. It definitely, we'll get into that. And then the ending, which is really good. So half of the show is amazing, half of the show didn't work for me, because I feel like 13 episodes, and I'm even feeling this with every other season, is a little bit too much for these seasons. You could have trimmed this down. You could have trimmed this down to 8 to 10 episodes. You didn't have to have 13 episodes, and that, I think, would have worked much better than it worked here. The flow would have worked much better. But let's start talking about the beginning of the season first, because I think the beginning of the season is really great. What I want out of a Daredevil season is the brutal action, the violence, and everything that comes with that. I love violence. Like, that might be weird to say, but in movies and TV shows, if you got the brutal fight scenes, absolutely love that. That's some of my favorite stuff here. And with the character of Daredevil, obviously you want some of that. And the very beginning of the season did have that. Whether you get the very first scene where he's taking down a bunch of thugs that are literally kidnapping women and probably selling to sex trafficking rings, or you have the hallway fight scene where he's trying to get this little boy back from bad guys, and he ends up in this awesome one-take hallway fight scene that still lives rent-free in my head, and is probably going to be the best fight scene in any of these seasons. That kind of violence is exactly what I wanted out of this show. They do not hold back, and that's exactly what I love. Absolutely love that. Characters in this show particularly are great. I love every single one of these characters, whether it's Daredevil, who is fantastic character, especially in Season 2, and we'll talk about that more in the Season 2 review coming later this week, but he is a fantastic character. And so his growth throughout the season, everything he does, I love the little scenes where he's just with the Pope and talking, not the Pope, but the preacher guy, and just, I think he is a Pope. I'm not a Catholic, so I'm a Christian. I don't go to the Catholic Church, but I really love his interactions where he's just in there with him, and they're talking about the things that he's done. I love those interactions. And then when you get the stuff with Foggy and Karen, two great side characters. Foggy, always a great side character, just kind of the comic relief stuff in there. But Karen is a great addition here, where she's just this kind of random side character in the very beginning of the season, grows to a full character, and even throughout Season 2, which we will talk about in another video later this week. She is a great side character. The villain of Wilson Fisk, I love. Vincent D'Onofrio is obviously fantastic in this role. Everything that the MCU has done with him hasn't really been top tier, so it's really cool to see him be Kingpin, be that violent Kingpin that he is in Season 1 of this show. So the characters are absolutely flawless in here. And now we got to move on to the middle of the season, where it just starts to feel a little bit repetitive, honestly, and it kind of gets me really uninvested. The overall story of the season is Daredevil going against Kingpin. This whole kind of war between the two inside of Hell's Kitchen. That's the story here. That's the really interesting stuff here. But I don't think there's enough for 13 episodes. There's not, because you have all these different tribes, not tribes, but factions. You have the Yakuza, you have the Irish. The Irish and stuff are more used in season 2, but you have all these things that Wilson Fisk is trying to control, and so you have this big sweeping story that works, but it definitely gets repetitive. When you get to the middle of the season, it's just kind of like, we gotta stop the Yakuza, we gotta stop all the bad guys, and that's really what it is, where the story doesn't go in any specific direction. It just is just Daredevil fighting bad guys through the middle of it. And I'm not gonna lie, I got kind of uninvested from the overall story and what was really working about the beginning, because it was just not going anywhere. So I kind of quit watching it for a month or two. I really wish I had time to rewatch season 1 before moving on to season 2, but I didn't, obviously, because season 4, Born Again, comes out in less than a month. So there's that, but I got completely uninvested in the middle of the season, and everything that worked in the very beginning of the season kind of lost its way a little bit. Kind of started to feel repetitive, kind of dragged out. The story itself seemed dragged out, where you have all these different factions, but it starts to feel really long, and like nothing is fully getting experimented out until you get to the final couple episodes. Now, here's where I'd say the first 3 or 4 episodes are great. The middle 3 or 4, they're the ones that get dragged out. And then the ending with episode, I'd say 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe even just 10, 11, 12, 13. I don't remember what specific episode got me drawn in again. Starts really working again. It gets the story back on track of the stuff we really want. The brutal nature of the show. The actual story here actually goes a place where in the middle of the season it just felt like it was kind of to a standstill and not really going anywhere, just enough to fill out the entire show. The ending of the season is fantastic. We get the plot lines where we get to learn more about Karen's character, and this is really when I fully felt like Karen was a fantastic character inside this season, and even in season 2, which we will talk about in a coming video later this week. I really love Karen. She's just one of my favorite characters in this show. And so the stuff you get with her when she kills Wesley in there is great. Kingpin, again, starts doing the brutal stuff. He kills the reporter. He goes crazy. And the final episode is just really good. You have everything that you wanted to be resolved inside the show gets resolved. The final fight between Daredevil and Kingpin is satisfying. When Daredevil gets his suit, it's not just like, oh, he's in a suit. It's satisfying. It's like, oh, he's in a suit. It feels worth it. But I feel like the season was really dragged out. It's a little rough to tell if you eliminated a couple of those episodes, if the show would work better, if the show would move more smoothly. Very hard to tell, because you might start to feel rushed and unsatisfying. But when the middle of the season doesn't feel like it really goes anywhere, and then we get to the stuff where it really goes somewhere, and we get the stuff that we like, the story here, the great stuff there, the resolution to everything that we've been waiting for in the season, it really works. And so when the show is really good, when the show has its great moments, it is fantastic. The brutal nature of it, the characters, the fight scenes, everything is awesome, but it definitely feels a little dragged out. And the fact that I got completely uninvested in the middle, that I took like a month or 2 break from the show, definitely a huge issue. So that is definitely going to play a factor what I have in my score here. Before I give you that score, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the bell so you never miss another video. And go down below and tell me, what do you think of Daredevil Season 1? I know I'm a little bit in the hot take category with this one, that I don't feel like the season's a masterpiece, but I did really enjoy this season and think it really worked as a whole, except the middle. I feel that the middle really dragged it down, but when the show's great, it's great, and that's carrying over to season 2, which I will have a review of in the next coming days. Daredevil season 1 for me, when it's great, it is fantastic, but the middle definitely got me uninvested, and while I did get back invested into it, can't deny that the middle got me uninvested, and that's going to take a huge couple points down. For me, very hard to score this one, because I want to give it an A- so bad, because all the greats are great. I will have to give Daredevil Season 1 a B+, just because if you get me completely uninvested in the middle of the season, it's going to take a step down. Next up, Jessica Jones Season 1 review. Then we got the Daredevil Season 2 review. Thank you guys for clicking on this video. And with that said, Please subscribe to never miss another video.